Hi everybody, it's Lori and Lisa here today, and we're here to talk a little bit about outlines and evacuation plans, especially since we don't always have a lot of time at safety refreshers. We don't have a lot of time to talk much about our evacuation plans or our outlines. We've all been subs at some point, so can you remember when you were a sub, Lisa?
I can remember it, Lori. It wasn't very long ago. Being a substitute driver is very challenging. I had many good days, but I had some extremely frustrating and challenging days that I will never forget. Some of those bad days could have been prevented if the outline that I was given was accurate and up to date.
I remember when I was a sub, this is going back a while, but getting some outlines that were absolutely wonderful and I had no issues at all. And those runs were always a joy to drive. But what really stands out for me and that I remember well are the not so good outlines. Outlines that were just missing like good directions, landmarks, updated information, that kind of stuff. I remember driving along and either kids yelling, "Hey bus driver, you missed so-and-so stop." Or, "Hey bus driver, we don't stop here anymore, she moved." Have you had that experience?
I have absolutely had that experience. Just this past year as a dispatcher, I was out driving runs and following outlines again, and all the things that you mentioned happened to me on the few times that I was out.
Ladies, doesn't Cindy D have those experiences like every day?
I
think we need to talk with Cindy D. What do you say?
I think we do need to talk with Cindy D. Cindy D, I hope you're listening.
So what happens when I get an outline and I'm out driving as a sub, it just adds the stress to a very stressful situation when the outline is wrong. I took a left turn instead of a right, and I'm completely lost, and I am extremely directionally challenged, so that's really hard for me.
Sometimes I think as we get permanent routes and we get comfortable with those routes, we get what we talk about at so many of our safety refreshers and at so many of our trainings. We get a little complacent with our outlines. It just gets second nature to forget that your outlines need updating or that you need to take care of them to help the subs when you can't be there to take good care of your students. Lisa, can you give us an overview about outlines?
I would love to, Lori. So here's some helpful information. Specific details are very helpful, like the third driveway on the left, or the fifth house on the right, or the greenhouse, or the house with a specific color of shutters, or an unusual mailbox, or something in the yard that sticks out that might be there all year, not a holiday decoration that will be taken down. If that info is on the outline, it makes it less confusing for the substitute to find what they're looking for. So please make a note of those things. It is important to jot down the notes on your outline to help your substitute who may drive your run in the event of your absence. You are responsible for your outline, and a good or bad outline determines the kind of day your colleague is going to have when they drive your run. So be a team player and respect your colleagues and your students enough to keep their safety in the forefront of your mind. Yeah, like I was just saying, you need to be observant. Does the bus stop have any distinguishing landmarks that are worth noting? Is it easy to see? Is the house easy to see from the road, or is it set back and it's treed and you need to find one mailbox on a long road of many mailboxes that aren't marked? So anything that you can mention, maybe there's an unusual tree, anything at all is helpful than not putting anything down. Be as specific as you can. Think like a substitute. Try looking at your run with fresh eyes. Ask yourself these questions. If I was new, what would help me? Or when I was new, what did help me? Lori, what are some do's and don'ts?
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Every driver at some point is going to have to update their outlines, and you're going to have to do it periodically throughout the school year. It's just not avoidable, folks. Outlines need to be updated every time there's an addition to your outline. A student's picture, their personal information needs to be on the outline along with their bus stop information. Drivers need to know if the student is a crosser or a non-crosser. If there's life-threatening medical data such as allergies, seizure disorders, breathing issues such as asthma, drivers need to know about any orders of protection, and that's real important, especially since if any of you were paying attention recently to the news, one of our students had an issue, and that had nothing to do with us, but the parent had an order of protection and ended up taking the child. So it's very important that you pay attention to that stuff. You need to find out what adults have no legal right to receive a student at the bus stop. For all of these reasons, you must keep your outlines up to date with current information. Now, when you get a delete, you can do several things. If you have a student deleted from a group stop, just draw a line through it and write deleted with the effective date on it. If you have a student deleted from a stop on a road where you make multiple stops or on a road that you need to drive on to get to your next stop, again, just draw a line through the student's name and write deleted with the effective delete date. If the delete is going to change your driving directions anyway, you must have a new outline printed with updated driving directions and current students that are assigned to your bus. Now, why should you update? To keep your students and your colleagues safe. Safety is our #1 priority, all the time, every time. That's it. It always comes back to safety, every single time. If there is a question that you can always ask yourself, if I do this, will everyone be safe? If I don't do this, will everyone be safe? Have I done everything that I need to do? So, Lisa, now that I understand better, I'm not really sure when to go in to see Tammy or when to go in to see anybody in the routing office to make a change. So what would be some of the reasons that I would need to go into routing?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Lori. So you should go into the routing office when something needs to be fixed. If you're having an issue with a stop being unsafe, or if you need something changed for safety or efficiency, and you think you know a better way to do it, please go in and to the routing office to see if your outline can be changed. You need to go there and update it, and it also updates the GPS tablets that the substitute drivers use. So when you don't update your outline, the GPS doesn't update either. So that's very important to remember because all of our substitute drivers have to take a tablet out on their bus with them.
So ladies, let me see if I heard you straight. Are you trying to tell me that our colleagues should not be like Linda Arthur? Now, what do I mean by not being like Linda Arthur? So, from my experience here, Linda Arthur, she has this tendency to go into different offices and just burn time of those folks who are trying to do their job. So they should not go in and burn time. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, Al.
They got to have something
You
important
don't
to
want
talk
them in
about.
there burning time.
I
Yeah,
get it.
Linda,
I
don't
get
come
it.
in and
Thank you.
burn
Go
our
ahead.
time.
All right, so this is, again, how to stay legal, because you legally have to follow the outline, right? It's not legal to change your stops on your own. I cannot stress this enough. So if you don't have the legal authority to change your bus stop, and if a parent asks you for any type of preferential treatment, your answer should always be, I have no legal authority to change a stop. I'm so sorry, but you're going to need to contact the transportation department to discuss this matter. I have to legally stop where I'm told, and I cannot deviate from that plan. Now, I know that you want to be nice and that the family that's asking you is nice, but being nice could get someone seriously hurt.
Wow, a lot of good stuff, guys. And, I know there's more good stuff here coming in the next few slides.
So, Lori, now that we know all about outlines and when to see routing, we should probably put this all together and talk about what constitutes a completed outline.
All right, I think that's a great idea. So, completed outlines. A completed outline always has a cover sheet. We've talked about this at so many meetings. You always want to make sure that your outline has a cover sheet, people. Make sure that your first and last name are on that cover sheet, your bus number and your block time. Sometimes I've seen outlines come in with a block time that'll say 2¼ hours, for example. And I look at it and I'm like, well, that's great. That's good to know that this particular AM or PM route I'm looking at, whatever it may be, is a 2¼ hour run. But what the sub and the dispatchers really need to know is what time the block starts and what time the block ends. Decisions on how to best assign the work from the dispatch side of things are made based on start and end block times. So please use, for example, 6 to 9:30 a.m. for a block time. A good outline should probably have, well, not probably, definitely has to have busport maps. If you are in the compound or on campus for PM routes that have Shen schools as part of their run, you want to always include a busport map. Make sure that the busport map is attached to your outlines to help our subs know exactly where to line up in the busport. No guesswork. Busport maps are in the file folders, which are located outside of the training room on that little ledge out there. They're in file folders by the time card box. So if you notice that there are no maps in the folder or that stuff is running low out there, please come see one of us in dispatch and we'll make sure that it's refilled as soon as possible. And something we talked a little bit about this morning between us in the office, we talked about seating charts and how this may end up being important in the future. But as it stands for now, assigning seats for all riders can help you guys to learn your students' names. It can help you control behavior, and it becomes a familiar routine for your students rather than a daily free-for-all. At the beginning of the year, create a seating chart for your bus. Assigning seats can be effective for students of all ages, and you can easily modify it to fit the changing discipline needs on your bus. Lots of drivers let their students choose where they'll sit and then use assigned seats as a bargaining chip if inappropriate behavior becomes an issue on the bus. Others use grade level assignment or reserved assigned seats for students that are repeat offenders. It also takes the guesswork out of situations if you've ever had a student vandalize the seats on your bus. There's no guesswork involved. You can just go back and figure out pretty much who did it. And I'm sure many of you can remember instances when you spent the better part of your day trying to figure out who was sitting in a damaged seat and who might have witnessed the action from a nearby seat. It seems to me that assigning seats not only helps us manage student behavior, but it helps us manage our time as well. Something else very important that you need to put on your outline is any pertinent or specialized information. This is information that would be especially important for a sub to know. Sometimes you are given a sheet with confidential information on it. It can be family issues, medical issues, orders of protection, any pertinent information, flight risk, life-threatening allergies. All of this information should be highlighted on your outline. Somewhere on the cover sheet, you should make a note for the sub to review any pertinent or specialized information. And if this information is highlighted, or what page it's located on. And one of the last things that's important to be part of your outlines is calendars. For non-public schools, like for example, Catholic High, Troy Prep, St. Mary's Waterford, schools like that. And for special needs students that don't attend schools in the Shen district. For example, we have students that go to Farnsworth Middle School. We have the Rochester School for the Deaf. Make sure to include a calendar as part of your outline if you have any of these schools on your route. This way, subs can review the calendar to determine if the school's in session that day or if it is a half day so that they're doing the right thing at the right time. So, just to recapture everything quickly, cover sheet, busport maps, seating chart, pertinent or specialized information, and calendars need to be part of a complete outline. What about special needs outlines, Lisa? Do you think they're very different?
I do think they're different, but they're the same. So there's going to be more specialized information on a special needs outline than there would be on a reg bus outline. But most of the things that we've talked about pertain to special needs as well.
Yeah. So we're going to take a look at a special needs evacuation plan, and this particular plan is something that if you drive a special needs route, folks, you should model your evacuation plan to look like this and to be as thorough as this one is. So here's our special needs evacuation plan. As you can see, the driver's plan is clearly labeled, telling you the driver is going to go immediately to Jenna and grabs her, who will be out of her car seat by the attendant as the vehicle comes to a complete stop. He lists the seating chart of how they're seated, and clearly, if you read this, he is clearly outlined who does what. And in a special needs run evacuation plan, you need to have a rear evacuation plan and a front door evacuation plan. And it should be clear so that when subs get on your bus, they are able to sit, review the plan, and know exactly with the driver what to do for safety's sake.
It is imperative that the plan is there so that the driver, when they're sitting at the school waiting for the kids to come out or before they leave, they can read through it and familiarize themselves with it just in case something unforeseen happens.
You don't want to get into an emergency situation and then try to decide, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? That's not the time to decide that. So if we have a plan in place, at least there's a starting point idea of how it's going to be done and how it's going to be done safely. And as I said earlier, this plan should be reviewed by every substitute driver and substitute attendant prior to pulling out of the compound. And this is a perfect example of what a good special needs evacuation plan should look like. During safety drill time, go over this plan with your attendant as well as your special needs students. If you have assigned your students to have a buddy, make sure everybody knows that and everybody's on board with that. So let's take a look now at a good special needs evacuation.
Breaking news this morning out of Hartwood Valley, where a school bus was forced to evacuate.
When you realize a bus evacuation is necessary, where do you start?
Well, we start by calling our dispatch when we know that we have an emergency. I radio in and tell them my bus number and the location. What has happened, and let them know that I am going to evacuate the students. This is done immediately to allow dispatch to contact the necessary emergency personnel and get them on the way to help.
I noticed that one of your students had a behavior disorder. Were you afraid that he would run away once he got out?
Well, we've worked with the staff at the school, so we know what might trigger one of his outbursts.
We practiced all of that.
Mary Tess goes with Eric as he evacuates and then stays with him at the rear of the bus and waits for the others.
We are talking to the students during all of